It is the world-renowned weather for weather geeks. All right, it's not exactly world-renowned, but I have a loyal audience nonetheless here in the Mahoning and Shenango Valleys. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. It's Thursday evening. It's the final evening of summer in 2017. A day from now, at 4:02 in the afternoon, it will officially be astronomical fall. I tweeted a little bit ago, you know we're close to an equinox when the sunset lines up almost right along 224. It's interesting to watch at this time of the year, and also, of course, at the beginning of spring in March, the sunset almost exactly along 224, blinding you if you're heading west towards Canfield, away from Boardman and Poland. That's how the geography works here. 224 runs pretty much due east-west, and the sunset's pretty much exactly west on the first day of spring and the first day of fall. All right, as I expected, the new drought monitor, when it came out today, did show an expanded area of drier than average weather, certainly. The soil's gotten dry across much of the Mahoning and Shenango valleys. Notice they're actually now classified in a moderate drought up in parts of Michigan, up around Kalamazoo and just south and east of Grand Rapids, where meteorologist Candace Monticelli is at her new job. Candace, of course, moved on from our station a few months ago and has a great gig up in Michigan. She's loving life up there. If you're still following her on social media, you're seeing how much she's enjoying herself up there in Grand Rapids. All right, back here at home, 86 was our high today, but look at Cleveland at 92, a new record high today. Also a record high in New Philly at 91. Pittsburgh, not a record there. They matched us with 86 this afternoon. All right, let's start talking about this in kind of historical perspective. We've reeled off now 6 consecutive days of 80-degree plus temperatures. We're going to reel off another 6 days of at least 80-degree highs, if not upper 80s to around 90. And so assuming that will come to fruition, and I don't see any reason why it wouldn't, this will fairly easily be the longest streak of this kind of warmth this late in the season on record. We've never had 12 consecutive days with readings like this in late September. This would even be impressive in the middle of summer. You know, if this were June or July and we reeled off 12 straight days of 80-degree plus temperatures, it would be more common at that time of year, but it would still be pretty impressive. So impressive is a word I'll be using a lot over the next 5 or 6 days, that is for sure. All right, as far as the daily records go, I think Friday's record high is out of reach, 92 set in 1931, but starting Saturday, the records are all within reach. Now, it's interesting, you look back at all this, and all these daily records were set back in the 30s, as a lot of our daily records, not just in September, but other parts of the year, are. They a lot of them date from the 1930s. One exception in this list, though, that was 10 years ago, in 2007, on Monday the 25th, it hit 91 degrees. So as you can see, our actual forecast is for 90 Sunday and Monday. Unbelievable. Now, this graphic doesn't look as pretty. This is just a screenshot, but I did a real quick search of the last 90-degree temperature for the season here in Youngstown, and actually we had one on, let me grab my highlighter here, on September 29th, 1953, it hit 90, so that's the latest. So it looks like that record will stay safe, because this year we are not going to hit 90 on the 29th or afterwards, it looks like. But that record I mentioned on the 25th that we may tie or come very close to on Monday, that's the second latest 90-degree temperature we've had here in Youngstown. Third place, 1936 at 91 on the 24th. And again, as you can see, a lot of these records are from the 1930s. So we're not going to set the record for the latest 90-degree temperature this time around, but certainly a very, very impressive stretch of warmth nonetheless. All right, so fall foliage, we get an update on the foliagenetwork.com or foliagenetwork.com. It's kind of the site I use for foliage updates. They update every Monday and Thursday, I believe. So we got an update today, and it's still, generally just patchy color around our region. Some trees have lost a lot of leaves. Some trees are looking really good, but overall the color's pretty patchy. Definitely better color as you head east on I-80 into Pennsylvania, up into the higher terrain from Clarion and DuBois over towards Williamsport, State College, heading up towards Mansfield, PA, and then up into the Finger Lakes in New York, and especially if you get into the Poconos and the Catskills and up into the Adirondacks, the Green and White Mountains up in Vermont and New Hampshire. The colors are really popping up there, and they'll hit their peak foliage 8, 9, 10 days from now up in those higher elevations. That's pretty typical for them at the end of September. Also, some moderate color up in parts of Wisconsin and the UP of Michigan. Again, we usually hit our peak in mid-October here. Could be a little earlier than average this year, but generally speaking, between the 10th and the 20th of October is when we hit our peak fall foliage. All right, major hurricane Maria, I should say. Yeah, Category 3, maximum winds right now 120. As you can see, the eye is trying to reform here. The eye was definitely disrupted as it moved over Puerto Rico, but now that it's over the open waters again, starting to see some reformation of the eye. Now, this is not as healthy of a hurricane as it was before it hit Puerto Rico. It won't regain Category 5 strength, but still, it's a major hurricane. Pressure down to 960. It'll impact the Turks and Caicos, southeastern Bahamas. Really pretty good agreement right now on the modeling and the official National Hurricane Center forecast that this will not impact directly the mainland U.S. We don't want to rule it out yet because, the left side of the cone here would be kind of an uncomfortable brush for the outer banks of North Carolina. But right now, the most likely scenario is this stays well out to sea. It just causes some rough surf and rip currents at the beaches in parts of the southeast and the mid-Atlantic. All right, we had some shallow, real patchy fog this morning. Could see the same thing tomorrow morning. The conditions are good for it in that the nights are getting longer, the dew points are high, the sky will be clear, but we haven't had much rain at all. In some places, we haven't had any rain over the last 9, 10, 11, or 12 days. And so the lack of moisture sitting on the ground will prevent the fog from being much of an issue for the next couple of mornings. Just real patchy, real shallow, and in the typically low-lying spots. All right, tomorrow is the beginning of autumn, officially at 4:02 p.m., and as you probably know, this is when the sun's rays are striking the equator directly. This also occurs in the first day of spring in the northern hemisphere, and as we go deeper into the fall and into the winter, the tilt of the Earth means that those direct rays will be aimed at the southern hemisphere, meaning the northern hemisphere gets colder and darker. I show this a lot at this time of the year and also back in March. Just because it is the first day of fall tomorrow does not mean we have equal day and night. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is the different ways in which we measure or define sunrise and sunset. Sunrise is defined as when the sun's disk first breaks the horizon, but we define sunset as when the bottom of the, I should say the top of the sun's disk falls below the horizon. So it's a little bit of a different measurement, and that can lead to some lag time on when we have, generally equal day and night. Our latitude also has some to do with that. We're about 40 degrees north or so, 41 degrees north. And the farther you get away from the equator, the more of a lag time there is from the equinox as to when you see equal day and night. 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of night. All right, our forecast tomorrow looks like this. 60 or so at daybreak, 88 tomorrow afternoon. Again, we won't break a record tomorrow, but it is going to be a very, very toasty Friday. Now, let's start talking about the future. As I've been talking about all week, this pattern is going to change. It's not going to last forever, that's for sure. And a big change is coming at the end of next week. Cold front looks to arrive around Thursday. And after that, as we go into the final weekend of September, actually the first day of October is a Sunday, so this would be Saturday the 30th and Sunday, October the 1st at the very end of this graphic, showing cooler than average temperatures. Now, by October 1st, our average highs are down in the mid-60s, so this could be a couple of days where we have highs around 62 or 63. Boy, does that sound cold all of a sudden, but that's only a few degrees below average for early October. Coinciding with the cool down, of course, will be a reduction in the humidity finally. I've been running my dehumidifier still in my basement here in mid-September, and the elevated dew points are here to stay through Thursday. The front rolls through, dew points crash back into the 50s and probably eventually the 40s as we go into October. All right, the National Weather Service put out their 3-month outlook today, which would cover October, November, and December. I have a similar forecast. I didn't go exactly with what they had. I thought their forecast was reasonable, but I did kind of tweak it a little bit. Generally speaking, the overall idea is that it seems likely that this will be a warmer than average stretch from October to December. That doesn't mean there won't be any cold days. There certainly will be. but taken as a whole, that 3-month stretch should be warmer than the average. All right, we're getting into the time of the year. A lot of people are asking me about the winter forecast. I was, getting asked at the fair a few weeks ago. A reminder, of course, the Farmer's Almanac is a thumbs down for weather forecasts. If you're watching this video, you know this stuff. But we generally like the Farmer's Almanac for interesting articles, astronomical information, all sorts of fun stuff. But their weather forecasts are just science fiction. It's just for entertainment only. Our winter forecast, as always, will be out in about 5 weeks from now. Hard to believe I'll be starting to look at this in a couple of weeks. But we usually do our winter forecast right around Halloween, either very late in October, maybe the first few days of November. And last year's forecast was a thumbs down. It started okay in December, but then the warmth in January and February, we didn't see that coming. So we're hoping to do better this year. I think we will do better this year. I think that there's a chance of a stronger La Nina this year. The stronger signal, the stronger ENSO signal we get, whether it be a La Nina or El Nino, tends to make the forecast a little bit easier. Last year was so neutral that we couldn't hang our hat on what was going on in the Pacific too much, and that, I cautioned that it was a lower than usual confidence forecast, and indeed, January and February, the unbelievable warmth meant it wasn't a very good forecast. So we'll do better this year. I hope so anyway. And that forecast, again, out right around Halloween. Thanks for checking in on Weather for Weather Geeks tonight. No Weather Geeks tomorrow. We usually take Fridays off during football season for Weather Geeks. And I'll be back here on Monday. Hope you have a great Thursday night.